She was dismissed the moment she stepped into the will reading. A gray linen dress, a faded cardigan, and quiet flats, just enough to draw sneers across a room full of polished airs, their grins too sharp to be sincere. A man in a gold tie was the first to speak, half laughing, half mocking. "Is that the maid?" A young woman tilted her head and whispered into her friend's ear. Probably some sad ex-mistress looking for a payout. Anna Thompson stood at the back of the room. She didn't answer, didn't flinch, just adjusted the strap of the cloth bag in her hand, because to them, she was just a shadow, an outsider who had wandered into a room meant for blood legacy and status. But they were wrong, because the woman they had just humiliated was the legal wife of the man they were all here to inherit from. And today's reading of the will was a test she helped design. The Sanders estate sprawled across a wooded hill, its stone walls and iron gates a fortress against the world. Inside the grand hall smelled of old money-polished oak leather and the faint tang of roses from vases that cost more than most people's rent. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen waterfalls, catching the May light and scattering it across a crowd of 42 relatives, investors, advisors, and assistants, each one dressed to claim their stake in William Sanders's empire. Tailored suits, silk dresses, diamonds that winked with every gesture. They milled about sipping champagne, their condolences as rehearsed as their smiles. Anna slipped in quietly, her flat silent on the marble floor. She chose the back corner near a tall window that framed the misty hills outside. Her dress was simple, loose enough to move in the gray fabric soft from years of wear. Her cardigan, a pale blue that had seen better days, hung slightly off one shoulder. Her dark hair was pulled into a low bun, a few strands loose, framing a face that needed no makeup to hold its own high cheekbones, hazel eyes that saw everything, and lips that stayed closed when others would have snapped back. At 36, Anna was beautiful in a way that didn't shout, but lingered like a melody you couldn't forget. The man in the gold tie, Richard Hayes, William's second cousin, leaned against a mahogany table, his Rolex catching the light as he smirked. Seriously, who let the cleaning staff in his voice carry deliberate disdain, drawing chuckles from a cluster of cousins nearby. A woman in a crimson dress, Laura Bennett, Richard's sister, tossed her hair and added, "Maybe she's here to dust the will before it's read." More laughter, sharp and brittle like glass breaking. Across the room, a younger woman, Emily Chen, a niece with a tech startup and a TikTok following, nudged her friend Sophia Nguyen, a former assistant to William Sanders's CFO. "Bet she's one of his charity cases." Emily whispered loud enough for Anna to hear. Or a mistress he forgot about. "Look at her bag, like she's carrying her lunch." Sophia snickered, snapping a discreet photo with her phone. "This is going on my story. One cheese sausage sauce. Sanders will flop." Emily's fingers flew across her phone, her smirk growing as she typed a caption for the photo she'd just taken of Anna. Found William's charity case, crashing the will. Reading guess she thinks thrift store chic gets her $1 billion. She said aloud, ensuring Anna heard every word. The crowd around her laughed, some pulling out their own phones to like and share the post, which was already gaining traction online. Comments flooded in, strangers calling Anna a nobody, and desperate their words a digital pylon echoing the room's disdain. Anna stood motionless, her hazel eyes catching the glow of Emily's screen, but she didn't speak. Her silence seemed to fuel their glee, as if her composure were a challenge they had to break. Sophia, Emily's friend, leaned in, her voice dripping with pity. "Poor thing doesn't even know she's a meme now." The laughter swelled a chorus of cruelty that painted Anna as less than human, her dignity. A target for their amusement, Anna's fingers tightened briefly on her cloth bag, a plain thing stitched with care, not a logo in sight. She didn't look at Emily, or Sophia didn't acknowledge Richard's taunt or Laura's barb. She stood still, her breathing, even her gaze fixed on the empty chair at the front where Henry Dawson would sit. To them, her silence was weakness, a sign she didn't belong. They couldn't see the steel beneath it the way her stillness held a room without trying. The crowd grew louder as more arrived. A former investor, Michael Carter in a pinstripe suit, muttered to his wife, "William always had strays hanging around. This one's got no business here." His wife, dripping in emeralds, nodded, her eyes raking Anna's outfit. "No class," she stage whispered. "She's embarrassing the family, just standing there." A distant cousin, Daniel Brooks, in a velvet blazer, called out, "Hey, sweetheart, kitchen's that way." He pointed toward a side door, grinning as his friends clapped him on the back. An aunt twice removed Margaret Ward in pearls clucked her tongue. Really, someone should escort her out before the lawyer gets here. It's disrespectful to William's memory. Laura Bennett crossed the room toward Anna, her heels clicking like a countdown. She stopped inches away, towering over Anna's smaller frame, her perfume sharp and suffocating. "You're in the wrong place, darling," she declared loud enough to draw every eye. She flicked Anna's cardigan as if it were trash, her nails grazing the fabric with deliberate disdain. "This isn't a soup kitchen. Why don't you leave before you embarrass yourself further?" The room watched some smirking others whispering, none stepping in. Anna's hands stayed steady on her bag, but the invasion of her space felt like a violation. Laura's closeness was a calculated threat. A cousin nearby muttered, "She's got some nerve staying." Their silence was complicit in Anna's humiliation. Anna didn't move. Her eyes flicked briefly to a security camera in the corner, its red light blinking steadily. She knew it was live, feeding to a private server only 2 people could access. One was her. The other wasn't here, not yet. As Henry Dawson prepared to read, Daniel Brooks slipped behind Anna, his velvet blazer brushing the wall as he whispered to his friends, "Watch this." He pulled a cocktail napkin from a nearby table, scribbled charity case in Sharpie, and tucked it into the strap of Anna's bag when she wasn't looking. The room noticed snickers spreading like wildfire as people pointed at the note, its bold letters branding Anna's back. Emily snapped another photo, her laughter barely contained, while Sophia whispered, "She's a walking joke now." Anna stood unaware, her focus on Dawson, but the crowd's glee was electric amusement. A knife twisted in her dignity. Daniel leaned back grinning as Margaret murmured, "Serves her right for showing up like that." The prank wasn't just cruel, it was a spectacle designed to make Anna a fool for daring to exist among them. Henry Dawson entered at precisely 11:00 a.m., his gray suit crisp, his briefcase heavy with secrets. The room hushed as he set his briefcase on the table, opened it, and pulled out a single sealed envelope. No flourish, no preamble. He adjusted his glasses and scanned the crowd, his gaze pausing on Anna for a fraction of a second, long enough to unsettle Richard, who frowned and whispered to Laura, "What's that about?" Michael Carter stood, his pinstripe suit creasing as he pointed at Anna, his voice booming like a judge delivering a verdict. "This woman's a fraud," he declared, his finger trembling with indignation. "William would never let someone like her near his estate. She's here to scam us, plain and simple." The room buzzed with agreement, heads nodding, eyes narrowing at Anna as if she were a thief, caught red-handed. His wife, her emeralds glinting, added, "She's probably got a fake ID in that rag of a bag." The accusation hung heavy, turning Anna into a criminal in their minds, an offense they couldn't tolerate. Anna's gaze remained steady, but the weight of their judgment pressed down. Each word was a lash meant to strip her bare. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, their outrage a performance for each other. Anna's silence only fueled their need to tear her down. Dawson cleared his throat. "We're here to read the last will and testament of William Sanders." He announced, his voice steady but deliberate. "Executed 4 years ago and verified as authentic." Murmurs rippled through the room. 3 years. William had vanished only 5 months ago, his private jet lost over the Pacific. No wreckage, no body, just a void that fueled headlines and greed. Most assumed he'd died, most hoped. Richard straightened his tie, his smirk returning. "Let's get to it then. Who gets the keys to the kingdom?" "Emily." Chen leaned forward, her manicured nails tapping her phone, already planning her victory post. Michael Carter crossed his arms, muttering about stock options. Margaret Ward clutched her pearls, whispering to Daniel about the summer house in Nice. Anna stayed still, her bag resting at her feet. She watched Dawson's hands as he broke the seal, the crack of wax loud in the quiet room. The crowd leaned in, their breathing shallow, their eyes hungry. This was it, the moment they had dressed for, schemed for, flown across continents for. William's empire, tech patents, real estate, and a biotech firm worth $90 billion was up for grabs, or so they thought. Dawson unfolded the paper. His voice composed each word, a stone dropped into still water. "I, William Sanders, being of sound mind, declare this my final will. To my family, colleagues, and associates, I leave nothing but this truth. Wealth reveals character, not worth. The room froze. Richard's smile faltered. Emily's phone slipped an inch in her hand. Michael's jaw tightened, his wife's emerald suddenly heavy. Nothing? It has to be a mistake. Dawson continued unfazed. All my assets, company shares, properties, accounts, and intellectual rights are bequeathed to one person. The one who stood by me for no reason other than love. The one who never asked my net worth, never sought my name for status. My wife, Anna Thompson. A gasp tore through the room, sharp and jagged heads whipping around, searching for a face that matched the name. Richard. Barked a laugh, short and disbelieving. Wife William wasn't married. Laura's hand flew to her mouth, her crimson nails stark against her paling skin. Emily's eyes narrowed, darting to Sophia, who mouthed, "What the hell?" Michael sank back into his chair, the floor creaking under his weight. This is absurd. William never mentioned a wife. It's a scam. Someone's forged the damn thing. Margaret clutched Daniel's arm, her voice shrill. She's not here, is she? Some gold digger we've never met, stealing what's ours. Dawson held up a hand, silencing them. The will is legal, signed and notarized. Supporting documents, marriage certificate photographs, personal letters are available for verification. He reached into his briefcase, pulling out a folder. He opened it, revealing a photograph. William Younger laughing his arm around Anna in a simple white dress, standing outside a courthouse. The date stamp read 6 years ago. The room erupted. Richard slammed a fist on the table. This is insanity. Who is she? Emily stood, her phone forgotten, shouting. Where's this Anna? Show her. Daniel sneered. Probably some con artist hiding in bees. Laura's voice cut through venomous. If she's real, why isn't she here? Too ashamed to show her face. Anna stepped forward. The movement was quiet, deliberate like a tide turning. Her flats made no sound, but every eye followed her as she crossed the room. Her cardigan swayed slightly, her linen dress catching the light. She stopped beside Dawson, her posture straight. Her face, calm. The cloth bag hung from her shoulder, unassuming like her. The silence was deafening. Richard's mouth opened, then closed his gold tie, suddenly garish. Emily's face flushed her earlier, photo burning a hole in her phone. Michael sank into his chair, his wife's emeralds dull. Now Margaret's pearls seemed to choke her hand frozen mid-gesture. Dawson nodded to Anna, a faint respect in his eyes. Mrs. Sanders, he said, handing her the folder. She took it without a tremor, her fingers steady as she opened it, glancing at the photograph, her lips curving just a hint, as if remembering the day it was taken. Then she closed the folder and faced the room. I didn't come for the money, she said, her voice clear low, like a bell through fog. I came to see who you were, who among you cared for William as a man. Not a bank account who would mourn him, not his fortune. She paused, her hazel eyes sweeping the crowd, pinning each one without effort. You showed me exactly who you are. Richard found his voice shaky but defiant. You're saying you're his wife. You. He gestured at her dress, her cardigan, his laugh forced. No offense, lady, but you look like you shop at thrift stores. Anna didn't blink. I do, she said simply. William didn't care. He loved me for me, not for what I wore or owned. Can any of you say the same? Emily snorted, folding her arms. Nice act, but I'm not buying it. If you're his wife, where's the proof? A photo is not enough. Anyone can fake that. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room, emboldening the crowd. Michael nodded, his voice loud. She's right. We need more witnesses, records, something real. Dawson opened his briefcase again, pulling out a stack of documents. A marriage license dated 7 years ago, signed by both parties and 2 witnesses, a nurse named Sarah Ellis, and a librarian, Michael Reed, personal letters from William to Anna, verified by forensic analysis. Bank records showing joint accounts kept private at William's request. And then he paused, pulling out a small USB drive containing video footage from their wedding. He inserted the drive into a laptop on the table, and a screen on the wall flickered to life. The room held its breath as grainy footage played courthouse steps. William in a simple suit, Anna in a white dress, both laughing as they kissed Sarah, and Michael stood nearby, clapping. The date stamp matched the certificate. The crowd's defiance crumbled, faces paling, eyes darting to Anna, who watched the footage with a quiet ache in her gaze. Laura stood, her voice trembling with rage. This is a setup. You planned this, didn't you? What is this, a test? Her words stung, but Anna's face didn't change. She let Laura's anger hang in the air, unanswered. Then she spoke, her voice colder, now sharp enough to cut. You're right about one thing. This was planned not to trick you, but to test you. To see if any of you cared enough to ask who I was before you mocked me. To see if you'd honor William's memory, or just claw for his wealth. She stepped closer to the crowd, her presence filling the room. You failed, all of you. Daniel laughed, nervous now. Test? What is this, a game show? Come on, you can't be serious. But his voice wavered as Anna's eyes met his, steady and unyielding. She reached into her bag, pulling out a small remote. William isn't dead, she said, each word deliberate. He's alive, and he's been watching you this whole time. She pressed the remote, and a monitor on the wall clicked on. There, in a dimly lit room, sat William Sanders, 42, lean with dark hair streaked with gray, his blue eyes sharp as ever. He leaned back in a chair, his expression calm but unyielding, like a judge weighing souls. The camera feed was live. The timestamp ticking in the corner. May 15th, 2025, 11:33 a.m. The room exploded in gasps, shouts, and disbelief. Richard stumbled back, his tie skewed. Emily dropped her phone, the screen cracking on the marble. Michael's wife clutched his arm, whispering, No, it can't be. Margaret's pearls snapped, beads scattering across the floor. William's voice came through the monitor, low and resonant. You thought I was gone. You thought this was your chance to carve up my life like a cake. But I've been here watching, listening every word, every sneer, every lie. His gaze shifted as if looking through the camera at Anna. She warned me you'd show your true colors. She was right. Anna's lips twitched, not quite a smile, but close. She turned to the crowd, her voice steady. I didn't want to be, right, she said. I wanted you to be better. The grand hall's doors opened and William walked in. He was real solid, his presence like a storm breaking. His suit was simple, no tie, his shoes scuffed from travel. The crowd parted as he crossed the room, their whispers dying, their bravado gone. He stopped beside Anna, his hand brushing hers, a quiet anchor. He faced the room, his voice carrying without effort. Anna designed this, the will, the reading, the cameras, all of it. She wanted to know who you were when you thought no one was watching, who'd respect a stranger, who'd show kindness, who'd care about me, not my bank account. He paused, his eyes sweeping the crowd, pinning each one. Not one of you passed. William's eyes locked onto Richard Hayes, the man who'd mocked Anna first. His gold tie, now a gaudy noose around his neck. You called my wife a maid. William said, his voice low but lethal, each word carving through the stunned silence. You laughed while she stood there alone, letting you show your true self. Did you think I wouldn't see Richard? Shrank, his bravado gone, his hands fumbling with his tie, as if it could save him. The crowd watched frozen as William stepped closer, his presence towering, despite his simple suit. You're not family. Richard, you're a parasite, and I'm done feeding you. A guard appeared at Richard's side, his grip firm. As Richard was let out, his protest drowned in the echo of William's words. The room felt lighter, justice a tangible force, Anna's honor restored, with every step of Richard's disgrace. Richard tried to speak. William, come on, we didn't know. She didn't say anything. William's gaze snapped to him, cold and final. She shouldn't have had to. You saw a woman you didn't recognize, and your first instinct was to tear her down. That's not family, that's not loyalty. Emily stepped forward, desperate now. We're sorry. Okay, we didn't mean it. Tell her, William, tell her to forgive us. Her eyes darted to Anna, pleading, but Anna's face was stone, her silence louder than any apology. William shook his head. It's not about forgiveness, it's about consequences. He nodded to Dawson, who pulled out another document. This is an addendum to the will, effective immediately. Anyone who insulted Anna today, named in security footage, audio logs, or witness accounts, is cut off. No shares, no properties, no contact. You're done. Dawson began reading names, his voice a gavel. Richard Hayes, Laura Bennett, Emily Chen, Michael Carter, Margaret Ward, Daniel Brooks. Each name landed like a whip, faces crumpling, protests rising, then dying. As guards moved in, Richard shouted, You can't do this. I'm blood. But a guard took his arm, firm but calm, leading him toward the doors. Laura followed, her crimson dress trailing her sobs. Echoing, Emily clutched her cracked phone, whispering, "This can't be happening." As she was escorted out, her digital empire collapsed. Live posts, deleted followers dropping by, thousand sponsors, cutting ties with brutal efficiency. "You're banned from my companies, my properties, my life," Williams said, as a guard took her arm, her phone slipping to the floor. The crowd's gasps were a chorus of awe. The room is electric with the thrill of justice. Anna stood beside William, her silence a crown, as Emily's digital throne crumbled. Her cruelty to Anna, now her undoing. Michael's wife tried to argue, her emeralds flashing, but William cut her off. "You called my wife classless. You don't get to stay." They filed out, heads bowed, the proud brought low. When the doors closed, only a handful remained. 3 people who'd stayed silent, who hadn't laughed or sneered. Sarah Ellis, the nurse from the wedding video, her eyes wet with relief. Michael Reed, the librarian who'd nodded to Anna when she entered, recognizing her quietly. And a groundskeeper who'd offered Anna water before the reading. No questions asked, William turned to them. "You saw her. You didn't judge. That's what family means." He looked at Anna, his hand finding hers again. "You were right about all of it." Anna's gaze lingered on the empty chairs, the spilled champagne, the broken pearls. "I didn't want to be right," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "I wanted them to be better." She faced the 3 who remained, her eyes warm now. "Thank you for seeing me." William squeezed her hand, his voice low for her alone. "You're more than they'll ever understand." She smiled small but real and leaned into him, her cardigan brushing his sleeve. The hills outside glowed green under the May sky, and the cameras blinked off. Their work was done. If this story hit you hard, drop a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and hit that subscribe button for more stories that cut deep and lift high. Your support keeps the truth alive.